Hello, my name is Hakon, and today I'm going to show you another little trick in using the Empress effects Zoia, the patchable modular digital synthesizer in a little box with a unique grid interface. And it has to do with getting exact values or converting a value to an exact value. For this example, even though it's not really necessary, I'm using a MIDI fighter twister MIDI controller connected to the Zoia because it's a little bit easier to show things, and I can use the MIDI input from the from the MIDI fighter twister as an example for a value that you might want to convert to something else. So the MIDI fighter twister is a 7-bit MIDI controller, which means it has a resolution of 128 steps. And if you send that to the Zoia, I'll just put an interface module MIDI CC in, and this is channel 1 and controller 0. That is the upper left corner here, and you can see it's lighting up. The resolution is 128 steps on 7-bit MIDI, which on the Zoia translates to the control value range from 0 to 1 being divided equally into 128 steps. So that means when I get a MIDI value of 1 on this encoder, it is a CC value here. It says a CV value, I should say, of 0.0079 on the Zoia. But sometimes you want to convert this value into something that is more useful to your patch. And this is also true of any other time when you have a certain value that you want to convert to something else and you want to use a different range of values for a different module, for example. So let's just, as an example, say that we want to convert this into the precise note values on the Zoia. So I'll just show you that now. I'm making a control module, a value, and when you go into a value module, it starts as a standard CV value number, which is between 0 and 1. But if you push the encoder, you can get note values, you can get frequency values, which correspond to the note values, and that can be quite useful. And when you're in note value mode, it snaps to the next value. So when you move the encoder one click, it goes to the next value up. And on the Zoia, that value is 0.0083. And the reason is that which makes it quite easy to work with, in fact, is that the octave is 0.1. So if I move this up now to 0.1, exactly like so, that is a 1. So it's 1 octave up from 0. And if you go up to 0.2, that is 2 octaves above the lowest note. Well, technically, it's not the lowest because you can still send negative values to a module that produces note values, and you can actually get lower than an A0. But 0 to 1 on the Zoia is A0 to A10. So I want to convert this MIDI value into precise note values. Of course, I could do that by using a quantizer. I could do it by using a value module that's set to snap to note values. But today I'm going to show you how to do it with a normal value module. And because this might be useful for other things, it's not always you can snap to a value easily. And then this is a useful technique for doing that with other values as well. So this is just a value module now, and I'm going to patch the MIDI input from the MIDI fighter twister to the value module there. That's okay. So now every time I move the encoder, this one goes up as well. But I want the value here now to go up exactly the same as the note values. So now it's 0.0079, and I want it to be 0.0083 or 8333 really. So I have to change the connection strength in order to get that value. So let's try this out a little bit. So I'm going to increase it to maybe 105.9-ish. Let's see how that works. So now we are getting closer. You see now it's 0.0083 and 167. That's the next one up, and it should be 250. Yeah, this is looking quite good actually. 500, 667. And this should be, oh yeah, it's a little bit too high now because this is the value that should be 0.1000. So, of course, you can't see that now, but this is MIDI value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So that's a little bit too high a connection strength. So let's just reduce that a little bit. And I'm using Shift and using the encoder, which gives me a fine tune. So I'm going to go down one step, one click on the encoder. Let's see what happens now. Now we're at 0.10000, so that's looking quite good. Let's go up to the next octave. Okay. Oh, we're a little bit too low now, actually. So this should have been 0.2000. Let's look at the next one just for comparison. And that is 999. Okay, so it's not far off. And of course, now the problem is the resolution of the connection strength, actually, because these two values I just tried are next to each other with the fine tune on the connection or the encoder. So there is a little trick you can use, because if I add a second value module now, I also patch this up to the MIDI input, but I want to use this to adjust this value just a little bit upwards. And you have an interesting thing on the Zoia is that connection strength, if you look at this, it's 105. I'm moving the encoder one little step and it goes up 0.1 or 0.2. But if you go down to really low numbers, let's look below 0 now, and you see it's actually got 3 digits. And if I rotate this encoder now, so I'm at 8, see, I'm 8.7, and then I do 1, I'll get to 8.6, and then 1, 2, and then I'm at 8.5. So the resolution is a lot finer for the lower values. And that means I can use the lower values to adjust this value module here to get an exact value of what I want. And you can use this for anything on the Zoia when connection strengths need to be precise. So how low do I need to go? Let's try something like 0.014%. Let's try that, see what happens. So now I've got this connected up, and I want to connect this value module to this value module as well. So they add together. So now this one is connected both to the MIDI input with a connection strength of 105.8, and it's connected to the other value module with a connection strength of 100%, because I'm doing the adjustment in the MIDI to value input here. You could have done it the other way around. You could have connected this to a value module and then adjusted the value strength between the value modules as well. That's arbitrary, really. You can do whatever you like. So let's see what happens now. So now it's now at a 0, and I move it up to 1. Okay, so 83, that's looking good so far. So 250, that's still good. Let's move it up to an octave. That's a 0.1. Okay, that's what we want. And let's move it up to the next one. 0.2, looking good. 0.3, yeah. Oh, 749, this should have been 750. So now it's going to be a little bit low. Yeah. So now it's 0.3999, and okay, so we still need to add a little bit more. So I'm going to increase this connection strength between the MIDI input and the adjustment value module now a little bit, maybe something like don't even need to use the fine-tune knob. I think we're somewhere around here, maybe, because we're sort of halfway up, or not. Yeah, let's try that. So now, oh, actually you can see it right away now, 0.6, that's looking good. 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and then there should be, oh, still a little bit too low there. You can see the last one goes to 0.9999. That should be 1 exactly. So I'm going to increase this again a little bit, just a few notches there, see what happens. No, still too low. Another few notches, still too low. I'm using the fine tune now. Still too low. Still too low. Ah, there we are. Okay, so let's just try reducing it by 1 click. Yeah, that's still good. And reducing it by 1 click, still good. And there we have it. That's the difference. So there is 0.9999, but I adjust this by 1 more click up, and there we have it. It is 1.000, which means now that the MIDI input is controlling values that are exactly note values on the Zoia. And this method, you can use it for anything. You can use it for note values. You can use it for absolutely any other module that requires a precise value, that you want to have a precise value. So you have one main connection that adjusts the connection strength to convert the value to what you want. And then you use a second value module with a low connection strength to do the final adjustment. And you can get really, really fine adjustment with this method. So that's what I wanted to show you today, and I think it's quite a useful little thing to know about. Of course, in addition to this, other things you would have to consider when you do connections is that you may want to only use a certain range of values. Say you want to start at 0.2 and go up to 0.6, and then you use offsets. I'll talk more about that some other day. But for now, nice little method, I think, for converting one value to another in a precise way by just adding a second value module. Now, this is something I struggled a bit with when I started using the Zoia the first time, because of the rounding off of the values actually irked me a little bit. But the lower the values you're working with, the finer the resolution, and so you can get extremely precise if you need to, when you need to. So if you enjoyed this video, if you found it useful, something you may want to use in your own patches, please like, share, subscribe, post this on forums and other social media, add it to public playlists, join me on Patreon if you want to support more videos like this, and I will see you next time when I make another video about the Zoia, possibly, or something else. And thank you for watching, and goodbye for now. Bye bye.